So when somebody says to me, I've got a track, I've mixed it and it sounds great, but can you make it sound like Chris Brown? One of the guys in my course that I run came to me and said, I've been stuck on one track for like 4 days or something mental. What happens is here, I think a lot of people do this and they get too emotionally attached to a track and then they think that they can change everything. This wasn't his track, so it wasn't like he was mixing it and things. So he wasn't doing tweaks at mix stage, you know, after mastering, which is always a fundamental error, which is why I always say you should keep mixing and mastering as two separate sections. He was basically just doing the mastering side. So what his problem was, is that he's trying to mix in his mind rather than master. So what happens here is you're trying to change the bass and the drums and the kicks and all these kinds of things and make them tighter and do things that basically you're not going to be able to achieve with EQ compression when it's a flat stereo mix. If you haven't got the stems, you can't do that. And if you're not the mix engineer, you can't do that. So at that point, what you need to do is you need to get it to the point where you think it sounds great, but then you think to yourself, okay, well, if I did this, that and the other, what I'm trying to achieve with the EQ, then really you then say that to the mix engineer or the producer or whoever's given you the track. Could you make these tweaks? Can you get the bass tighter like this and give them suggestions why? And then that means you'll be able to achieve in your mind how you think you can hear it sounding as a finished project. I think the problem is most people are overthinking what they're doing and they're overthinking the fact that they can achieve these things where you can't achieve that with mastering. Mastering is, as I've always said, it's the veneer across the sound. So it's not all the individual bits of the table, for example. It's just the finish of the table. You can't change the fact of how it looks and how it's shaped and things like that before because it's already been put together. You're there just either giving it a massive thick coat of paint to get rid of it because it just looks dreadful and that's kind of enhanced it somehow, like you would if you're upsampling a table with, if I'm going with this analogy, you would upsample it because it looks really 80s and then you've sort of given it a nice splash of grey paint and it's suddenly looking all fresh and new. So that's kind of what you're doing with mastering, and hopefully you don't have to do too much because it already looks great and it's a fantastic thing and you've just got to give it a polish and send it back. So that's how I see mastering, and you can't change the fundamental basics of it. And when you're coming from a mix head, you really will overthink what you're doing and think that you can achieve things that are impossible to achieve with just putting a bit of compression here and putting a bit of EQ there. You're massively overthinking the whole thing and you're better off just sending it back, asking for tweaks. And if they don't want to do those tweaks, that's fine because that's just the sound they're going to be able to achieve and you can only do so much. So to take something that's really bad and make it really good is pretty impossible with mastering. So when somebody says to me, I've got a track, I've mixed it and it sounds great, but can you make it sound like Chris Brown? Well, it's like, no, I can't, because you haven't had the fundamentals in the right place to start with for me to be able to then add to that. Because when they've gone to mastering, the mastering guy has just given it a little polish. He's not really taken it apart and smashed it to death and really pulled something out the bag. Because you can't do that if the mix is already tight, crushed, ruined. You know, it's fine if it's open, but apart from that, so yeah, don't overthink what you're doing. As a mastering engineer or as someone who's approaching mastering, just realise what you are. All you can achieve is this because of what you've been given, or go back to the original and see if you can get those tweaks made. So there's my rant for today. If you like this kind of thing, please make sure you subscribe. Please like this video. I want to know in the comments any questions that you have for me or anything you have on this subject of overthinking what you're doing and ways to stop yourself overthinking. Maybe that is leaving tracks for a day or leaving tracks for half an hour and coming back to them and then realising, okay, they only needed this rather than all this crap that I was putting on at overthinking. So yeah, let me know that in the comments. Please go to streaky.com where I have a email which is audio anoraks. So join the 25,000 other people that are audio anoraks already And you get tips, tricks, you get discounts, you get giveaways every month. It's only once a month that I contact you with all this stuff that I see online and other things that I know you'll be interested in because you like audio the same as me. So go to streaky.com, sign up for that. Till next time, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment. Bye.